completely ripped off by all these lawyers. I think that I gave the wrong impression to the judge, who, because I didn't have a sympathetic appeal, because I was coming out with hiring these expensive lawyers. Whereas what I should have done, because in the end, I had the whole divorce analyzed by someone who, someone to look it over, because there was things already my ex-husband wasn't in compliance with it and stuff like that. And this lawyer says to me, he said, after all that, after like 2 years of just brutal, just awful stuff, he said to me that he couldn't imagine how I could have done any worse if I'd never hired a lawyer at all, which was brutal to take, because the amount that those lawyers cost me was outrageous. And these lawyers were not in any way comforting. They in no way tried to make me think that we were a team. They seemed like they hated me. My lawyer seemed to hate me almost as much as his lawyer did, and I never understood it. I didn't understand what was going on with that. It had something to do with my association with this lawyer who I was living with, and I never really understood why. But if I had never gotten involved in any of that, and I had just gone forward with what I could have afforded to do on my own, which would have been just coming in, having no lawyer at all, and just having to talk for myself, it would have been more honest, because it would have been more honest representation, and probably more sympathetic, because I wouldn't look like I was doing fine, because I wasn't doing fine. But anyways, so but the point of that was that there were like little respites where I thought, okay, I'm gonna be okay, but I just never was. And then when this guy broke up with me, it was like putting the nails in my coffin. When I met him, it was 2003, and I'd already been through a lot. I'd already had been through the heart attack, through getting abandoned, through all the smear campaign, and the being arrested, and I've been through all of that. I went to his office, and this was because of the whole thing that happened with the confession that I made to R, and R setting up this thing in getting me arrested in my apartment so that he could come in there and get all those documents that he wanted. I got there to his office that day in 2003. I still had fight in me. I still had hope and spunk, and a reason to believe that, but by 2005, I was like a skeleton of my former self. The 2 years were just so brutal on me, and it shouldn't have been that way. It was like, sure, the divorce was really hard and all that, but I also had this boyfriend. The whole entire relationship went from 2003 to 2005, and I was living with him at least half of that time. After years of emotional abuse, I started seeing him, and I should have been bolstered by, affection and love and warmth and someone on my side and all this stuff, and I was not. I was so diminished and hopeless and weakened and just exhausted and financially just wiped out, and just, nothing got better for me. I was in a terrible position, and then he abandoned me, and I just put nails in my coffin. And then he left us. He moved us into a motel and left us there. And then I realized that what he's actually done is he's involved himself with his secretary, who has 3 kids younger than mine, a lifestyle that was going to take on even more than he would have taken on with me. We were getting involved with a client who had just been arrested and all this stuff, that this had to be a huge risk for him, and that and he told me that there would be no evidence, no one is going to, I haven't had a girlfriend ever, no one's going to tell you that they've ever seen me with a girl, you're the first woman I ever wanted to be with since all, in years and years and years, because I was waiting for you, you're the one, I'm not a dater, I didn't date anybody else, I was holding out, waiting for the perfect girl to show up, and you're her, you're exactly the person I've been waiting for all my life. this is what he was saying. I mean, he was 46 years old, and it was true. No one seemed to have any memories of him being with any woman, and there was no sign that there had been any woman in his life anywhere, in his house, in his, nothing, just nothing. And so I started, I really believed him. Plus, he was a little awkward, like it didn't seem like he was used to having a girlfriend. What he was telling me seemed very true, and how it was playing out, how it seemed very true in his life. But even if it was true in his life, something had changed in him, that's for sure, because he became quite a ladies' man after me. He was dating all kinds of people and had all kinds of stories, and then eventually ended up involved with his secretary. And of course that didn't work out either, and then he wanted to reconcile with me. He did the full hoovering. He came back hoovering, and but of course I didn't know what hoovering was then, so I did actually reconcile with him briefly in 2008.